Morning, everyone. I'm Polly. This is Patty, as
Morning.
per usual. Hi, Patty.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's Wednesday.
I know.
Getting there.
Hump day.
Yeah.
Although I'm a little bit sick, so I'm sorry if I have to blow my nose. Sorry,
s-
Patty.
That's all right. That's all
Sorry,
right. It
Simon.
happens. The weather's taken another cold turn in Sydney.
It's a bit of it's a
Yeah.
bit cold.
Yeah, we're in the thick of it. But the days are getting longer, so that's
Ye-
good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. Okay. Cool. Webinar.
Great.
This morning session is all about priorities. It's been a while since we ran this session.
Yeah.
And we kind of want to show you how you would be using this section of Streamtime. And it's a bit of a, in my opinion, it's a bit of a hidden treasure. It's a screen that perhaps not many people know about or don't know how to use it properly.
Yeah.
The why we called it priorities, it's actually pretty straightforward. It's because of your priorities. Makes sense. All your different roles and the priorities that you've got in your business. So you can use it just for yourself, or your team can actually use it as well. They can access your screen to help you manage your project based on your priorities, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. That name kind of came, we were workshopping a few different things. And for those that don't know, priorities came about through a hackathon that we ran here last year. So
Sounds fun.
what happened? Oh, the sound seems bad. Can barely hear you. Maybe we'll bump up the volume for a bit.
Maybe
Sorry
I'll come
about
closer.
that. Maybe come closer. Let me just.
Sorry, guys.
Hopefully that's a bit better. If you guys could confirm that sounds sounding nicer, then that would be great. But yeah, sorry, I was just saying that. So last year we got together, we ran a hackathon where the whole team came together from all different departments, and we spent 2 days sitting down with this idea of what a Kanban board in Streamtime might look like. And that might sound simple or relatively straightforward, given that you guys can see priorities now and understand how that looks and works. But in truth, it was like there were a lot of things to consider. We started by looking at how people currently use other Kanban boards in conjunction with Streamtime and looking at what parts of that process were missing and what it might best be used for. Because when you think about what the information could be, like a card on a Kanban board, we've obviously made them jobs, but they could be anything. They could be clients, they could be tasks, to-dos, items, all sorts of things. And so for us to kind of land here did require us to conduct a bit of research and, nut some things out, think of all the potential problems. But the long and the short is that after 2 days of us all nutting down, we kind of had a prototype of priorities, which is what you see now pretty much. And we had, named it. We created like a little campaign around it, which was really fun. And that name priorities came from essentially what we were trying to do, which was give the user the ability to organize their information, their projects in a way that was important to them, that mattered to them, so they could prioritize what they needed to see, what you guys need to see. And so priorities is exactly what is important for you. And that's what we're prioritizing here. So that's where the name comes from. And so I think, what you said before, it is a bit of a hidden treasure. I think it is a complementary area to the rest of Streamtime's workflow, in that it's not an essential part of that, job workflow process.
But it can be.
And if you crack it, people often decide to work, solely from priorities. And what we're going to explore today is a few different workflows that will allow you to do that. So you could pretty much run your studio from this screen without having to leave it. And lots of people don't know that, which is really cool and exciting. And
super cool.
Yeah.
I personally work from priorities. We all kind of work from priorities screen too. It's so cool. And the purpose of this session is for us to show you different ways how you could be using priorities. And also the second half of our webinar, we will be focusing on you and perhaps just asking all those questions, how you would like to use priorities, and maybe what would you like in that priority screen to be added, because we are thinking of improving this as well. So another second purpose of this webinar is to know what's important to you. What would be something that you really want in this area of Streamtime?
Exactly.
And how it would benefit you as a business.
Exactly. Yeah, we are definitely planning on revisiting priorities and taking it further. So if there are parts of it that currently don't satisfy your needs or could be improved, or even, things that we might not have thought of, you might, think of every day, just share them with us.
Exactly. Our product team is
nothing
watching.
right or wrong. We'll be taking all the feedback that we collect at the end of the session today.
Yeah.
And taking it to product.
They're watching it right now, I think.
Yeah,
you guys are watching.
Hey, over there.
Watch it.
But yeah, and I think the only other thing worth mentioning is some housekeeping. Oh, Sarah's here. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah's who is Sarah? Sarah's part of design team.
Sarah's part of our design team. Yeah.
Welcome, Sarah.
Welcome.
So housekeeping. Feel free to introduce yourself. Say hi. If you hear us better, let us know, please. I'm trying to speak louder, even though I'm a bit sick. I don't even know how loud I'm speaking.
Speaking at a great volume.
Okay. All right. Feel free to say hi, introduce yourself, where you come from. If you've got questions, just ask them away. We will cover them at the end. We will ask you questions at the end as well. So if you have some ideas and questions, just write them down straight away.
Yep.
Product team is watching. Everything that's been discussed today will be passed on to the team as well. So it's all super useful. So don't be scared.
Exactly. Cool. So moving on today, let's look at a few workflows in priorities. So obviously we'll want to hear about how you guys are using priorities at the end here. You might use a couple of the ones that we're going to, demonstrate today. First up, we'll be looking at how to manage your pipeline and priorities. Second of all, they'll be looking at like a studio whip. So from a project manager's point of view or a director's point of view, getting that overview of what's happening across the board. A personal whip. So just looking at the jobs that matter to you, what you're working on, and how you can even track time and kind of manage those tasks directly from priorities, which is cool. Your invoices. So for a finance manager or an accountant, how they can keep track of, or even, a business owner, just keeping track of what's been paid, what hasn't, what has been part paid, these kinds of things, what's overdue. And then finally, managing like an entire project in priorities. So for example, perhaps you're working on a long project over the course of a few years, that might comprise of many smaller jobs. So keeping track of how that's all progressing and looking at priorities to help keep on top of those things.
Awesome.
So I'm going to share my screen now.
Share your screen, buddy. How long do we have? Like 10 minutes to go through that? Yeah. Cool.
Plenty of time.
Cool.
So what's the first one we got here?
The first one is how to manage the pipeline job in priorities. We ran a webinar a couple of months ago with Andy and myself, but it was away on exactly that. So I love talking about that, to be honest. So in here, you can create columns that are your deal stage, I guess, the stage of that job. And it obviously all depends on how you currently work. So I don't want to go into detail on how to create those pipeline jobs. This is a different webinar, but how to manage them in priorities, this is exactly what we're talking about. So you will have your jobs with the right label, the opportunity label, and the likelihood of this job coming across. Yeah. So right now, the first column here, it says just an opportunity. Oh, no, wait, what are we? We're looking at all the jobs in Studio, right? Not the.
This is our pipeline management. We are looking at pipeline.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. So the first column is the opportunity column. So maybe it's only 25% likelihood of this job coming across. So it's just first contact has been established. Budget is there, $300,000. Cool. And then second column is the proposal sent. So as I said, it really depends on how you guys work. So maybe it can be something different, maybe a quoted column as well. Then we've got one, and then so on in Studio and blah, blah, blah.
Like push into progress.
Exactly. So the way you manage your opportunity jobs, you would create all those jobs in advance. You will add them into this right column, opportunity.
So let's say maybe we had a meeting this morning with
Nike bra, new bra design. Remember we had this meeting.
We'll get some more bras made.
Sports bra.
Sports bra. for Nike. Cool. So let's say maybe we had a phone call with Nike this morning and we just want to register this in. It's currently an opportunity. It's not yet a job. There are a couple of things we want to do. First of all, let's add that opportunity label.
Yeah,
and
too easy.
A bit of confidence. So maybe at the moment I'd leave it at about 25%.
Yeah.
It's early days. It's early days, and as we do have more conversations and even send a quote, we can kind of increase that confidence, which we see here. Might want to open up this job and
add a quick budget.
Let's add a budget. So let's say maybe
50,
40 grand. And when is it expecting to come through? So I might just have job notes here where I can contain some correspondence with the client so far. I'll keep that one in pause. I'm going to add an end date, which is when we're expecting it to come through. So let's say it might be start of August.
Cool.
And then, well, not that. We might want to say Helena met
with the client. Yeah. Cool. So since it's in pause and it's not an actual item, it's where you can keep your notes under a job as well. So what we just did, it took only a minute to create this job and record it, and all you need to do is just add the budget, add the due date of when this job will likely come through, and add it into your priority.
Exactly.
So it's recorded, you know exactly what you're looking at. You're looking at $340,000 in our opportunities right now.
Exactly. And it's really easy to click into that job just by clicking its name or turning it over, and you could track time against it using a to-do, create a quote, expense, or an invoice if you wanted to. And just so everyone's kind of clear, we're just adding jobs here when we have these buttons down the bottom. And these lists are lists that we've defined ourselves. We kind of assume that you guys probably already know a little bit how priorities works, but these columns we've just created ourselves and we've named whatever we want to. And we can add more columns here. We can move these cards around within these columns. As we kind of send off a quote, we might, just do that straight from priorities here. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want, you can even have more detailed opportunity planning here and add more columns before that proposal sent stage, based on your deal stages that you've got in your company. So adding perhaps 25%, and it's got 50%, then 90, and then 1. So if you like to have more control over those opportunities, but it's up to you. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, so next, let's look at a studio whip list.
Awesome.
So essentially what we're going to see here is all of the work that's currently coming through the studio, and its status essentially. So we can see we've got these columns: incoming, in studio, currently with client, things to invoice, and what's been delivered, assuming they've been invoiced as well and are kind of wrapped up there. This one is really straightforward.
Yeah, it can be useful for our project managers, traffic managers, managing directors, see everything what's happening in your studio at a glance.
Yep.
And just this view, it's very easy to kind of gauge the information and understand, is your studio really busy? All right, in studio, we've got lots of projects happening right now. So you kind of understand that better viewing this.
And as a project manager, I might be more interested in looking at the hours on a project as opposed to the dollar figures.
Exactly.
And you can change this really easily, or you can even see both. So by clicking up the options here, you've got this little traffic light button. You're able to open up all these different options of information to see on these cards. And just using these checkboxes, you can turn them on and off. So I've added the used and planned hours there, looking at the total versus budget alongside it too. So the total versus budget is good because it's going to include any expenses that I have on a job, those costs. So essentially it's giving me a quick summary of where the entire job is at versus where it needs to be. And the used versus planned hours is just showing me how much time how much of my team's time is, currently been run or is going to need allocating soon. And so just giving me a quick status report on how everything's tracking. I can see the team members on those two and those labels. So again, really straightforward. If anything's unclear, then please just drop us a message.
Exactly. And anyone in your team can work from this priority board as well. So even though it's Patty's, but I've got access to jobs. So I've got access to priorities, meaning I can create a board for myself, or I can actually view Patty's priority boards, because this is how we work in our studio. I want to take control and actually move the job as it progresses in Patty's board, so he doesn't have to control everything.
Exactly. So it's one centralized place, and you can share these between different people, which is really cool. And the next place we want to the next way we want to look at working in priorities is a more personalized approach. It is kind of a variation on your to-do screen. So obviously you have the to-do screen in Streamtime. That is a key place where everyone needs access to be able to track their time and manage the tasks that they're working on. Now, that's not to say we can't really mimic that in priorities here. We know that lots of people do tend to work with Kanban boards when it comes to granular tasks, or at least managing these kinds of things. And so what we can do here is sort of take that, to-do screen, that model, especially if you do work on lots of quick, small jobs. This might be a good way to kind of manage those throughout the course of a day. But to split this into 3 different lists: to do, doing, and done. There's nothing stopping you from doing this, whereby you can still actually track time against these tasks within here. You can add a to-do against a task when you're working on it. So we know that I'm currently working on the design for this courtware, so I can say exactly what it is that I'm working on. If I want, I can allocate the time, 2 hours I spent on that, and I can create and log that task with like a couple of clicks, all from this one screen. So there's no need for me to go to my to-do screen. If you don't need to, this is just a preference thing. We're just providing the ability to do these things from different areas in Streamtime if you want to be able to do that.
Exactly. You can even invite your boss and have a look at this screen too, so they know what is it that you're doing and what you've got on to do. It's pretty cool. Good idea, Patty. And last but not least.
Second last.
Yeah. Invoices. Yeah. Managing those invoices in your studio. So it's pretty important. So usually our clients' accounts teams manage that in priorities and create those boards for themselves. So right now we are looking at just the basic example. This is our example, so you don't have to copy that, but it works. So we've got a column, to invoice, and then part invoice, awaiting payment, paid, maybe hasn't paid yet, but payment due today. You can overdue, whatever works for you. So you can then add those jobs that are not actually jobs, that are more invoices here, and you can manage that in here. Obviously, having other areas of Streamtime helping you, such as reporting on those invoices, but this is just an extra, just to help you understand where you're at with your payments and invoices.
Exactly. And you'll notice as well that I have added a couple of jobs into 2 different columns here, and there's nothing stopping you from doing that. So in this instance, the Extra Sticks redesign has been partially invoiced. Maybe there's a second or a third installment that is currently awaiting payment as well. And there's nothing saying that, this job can't sit in 2 of these columns at the same time. So it's good to know that we can do that as well.
Yeah, cool. You can add a quick reminder as well from here to follow up on the client, just straight from priorities, but it showed.
I might want to set a follow-up for Wednesday next week if I've just sent that.
Sounds
good. Might be like a
15 minute.
And I can just say follow up invoice, create that task so that next Wednesday when I roll into my to-do list, I'm going to see that sitting there waiting for me to do.
Exactly.
Cool.
Awesome.
And one more.
Yeah, one more.
This is a good one that you just suggested this morning, which I really liked.
Thanks.
Do you want me to kind of explain how I've set this up?
Sure. So the idea is, if you do work on a big project, and I was saying this morning that if you have a big client, a huge project which takes a lot of money and a lot of effort, you want to have an area of Streamtime where you can manage that project only. Since it takes priority, maybe it's $500,000, so it's a good way to set up a priority board specifically for that project or that client.
Exactly. So in this instance, I used a relevant example, which is us Streamtime. And I actually took all of these jobs from our internal Streamtime that we use to manage all the work that we do. But an example would be that you're working with a client, maybe you are doing design of a huge project over the course of a few years, right? So we've got these columns here. What are the pieces of work that are coming up? What's currently in progress? What's on hold or in review with the client? And what's been done recently?
Is it actual information? Are we allowed to share that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, all of this stuff is relatively shareable, I think. I think there's nothing too crazy. So as you can see in progress, there's a schedule design 2.0 that we're currently working on. Priorities 2.0, that's kind of just being kicked off at the moment. And I've got that in progress because we're having this webinar right now, which is good. On hold or in review is partial invoicing. There's been some work around that, which is cool. I'm not sure how that's kind of tracking, but it's definitely had some design done. And then these are the things that we've redone or we've done recently, which are the referral program, the items redesign on the jobs page, the JCR, and the iOS app.
Awesome.
You can see there's some more work coming in there too. And importantly here, we've got the same client, but if you do work with that client across different projects, then I've used a label as well to be very specific about the project that's being worked on here. So this is the redesign of Streamtime, for example. You just want to kind of get that label in there to have that granularity so that when it comes to reporting, you can group all of the jobs from that project together and look at the value of it, look at the budget all up, look at the profit on it, look at the time spent and the cost, really. All these kinds of things that are important to understand about your business when you're trying to make important decisions.
Well said, buddy. It's really good.
Just rolled off the tongue, that one. Yeah.
I wish I could do that. Cool.
But that's all we wanted to show you today, guys.
Yeah. So now it comes to us asking questions.
Yeah. So we're going to stop sharing the screen and we're going to ask you a couple of questions, which we'll ask them one by one. And maybe as they come in, we'll take a look at, the answers that you guys send us and we can talk about them a bit. But first of all, we'd love to know about how you guys are currently using priorities. Or are you using priorities at the moment? Are you not? Is that the reason you're here?
Should we put the questions in there?
Sounds good.
Just
copy and paste. I can do that. It's a computer. It's great. So we've just dropped the question in there. How are you guys currently using priorities at the moment? If you are.
Second question. What do you like most about priorities at the moment? And obviously leading to the third question, what would you love priorities to be able to do for you?
Exactly. So in a perfect world, what would priorities be doing for you? And why, I suppose, is the important thing to understand there. What is the pain with the current way of working in priorities, if it exists? What's it preventing you from doing? And how could we potentially improve that? I'm just going to have a quick scroll back and look at some feedback that's come through. So Nikki said that an issue she's finding is that she would like to prioritize jobs. She works with clients on a retainer. So I have one job and several job items within the job. From what I can see, you cannot select a job item from a job in priorities. So the cards in priorities are just jobs. Yeah. Within those jobs, if we do decide to add a task, we can, of course, select the item on that job. That job doesn't have an item. Let me find a job with an item. Let's say here. So if we do decide to create a to-do there, we can select the item to work on at this point, but we can't manage items as cards within priorities.
I find some of my clients actually use labels to kind of set the stage of the project based on the items they have within that project. It can potentially work, but it's dangerous because it might create thousands of labels that you actually don't need. So yeah, it can be a tricky one.
Don't be shy, guys. Feel free to drop any answers to those questions we've asked in there. Thanks, Rich. So just seeing you type those up and come through.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it. And then Lynn had another question there. Do you want to read that one?
Yeah, sure. Lynn is asking, can an individual have more than one priority page? This is awesome. I mean, this is exactly what we need. The honesty around what you like. So at the moment, no. But as we said, you can work from someone else's priority board, but you won't be able to have multiple priority boards for yourself. However, we will make a note of it. Thank you, Lynn. Because as we said at the beginning, we are improving this area of Streamtime. So working on priority number 2. So that's good. Very useful. Thank you.
I'd be curious to know, Lynn, what those different boards might be for you, and why one person would need different boards if they're managing different things in different ways. It'd just be good to understand from your point of view what your potential priorities boards would be. If you want to share those with us, that would be great too.
Thank you.
And thanks, Rach. She said priorities as a sales pipeline at the moment, which is good.
That's the answer to the first question.
First question. Second question, love priorities as a way to see the big picture. Cool. So having an overview of the studio. Would like to see a secondary priorities boards for bigger projects. Could you, sorry, Rach, just coming off that last point, is that kind of bouncing off what Lynn had said before with regards to having more priorities pages?
I think so, because Rach is one user in Streamtime, so maybe you're trying to kind of have multiple priority boards for yourself. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Cool. I know you're right.
Great. Cool. If anyone else did have answers to those questions, some feedback, we would really love to hear it. Appreciate it. You're asking, you shall receive. Multiple boards, small studio. Yeah. Like the pipeline for new business. How do you set percentage? So the percentage figure that we're using there, Kerry, is just a label on a job. It's really quite simple, but it's defined by us. You're adding a label here, and then you can just apply the confidence in a percentage. So I've already got 50% in here. You might want to make a decision amongst the team on the different levels of confidence that you could have as labels. So 25, 50, 75, 95, whatever it is, just so that it's consistent across the team.
Exactly.
In terms of what those labels are. But pretty straightforward. We've just got 50% there. What that means is that in your jobs list, if you want to see a list of all of the jobs that have 50% confidence, it's really quite easy. So I want to look at all opportunities. So I've added a job label for opportunity and 50%. So combining those two is going to show me a list of all of the jobs in Streamtime that have that much confidence. And then you're just going to be selective with your labels. So we'll probably just want to be looking at the budget here to see the potential value of this job and when it's coming through.
Awesome.
So start date off, but I can see it's due in a month and it's worth $50,000. So that's where the use. Well, I probably want to see my labels too there just to make sure that I've got them all right. But yeah, that's how that's going to serve you.
Awesome. Awesome.
You can save that one as a favorite and come back to it later.
Cornelius is also saying that multiple boards would be super useful. So that's good. For overall pipeline versus individual project, for example. Also shared boards and private ones. Good one. So you mean private priority boards that no one can see? Cool.
One thing that would be good to ask some more about was before there was the comment on just being able to use items within priorities. Do you guys find it useful having just jobs as priorities cards, or would you find it useful to have more than just jobs as things you could prioritize here, I suppose?
Good question. It's a very deep question.
Silence, everyone's thinking. Lost in thought. Items would be great to prioritize. Anything else you could think of, Rach, or in terms of the real workflow, or
Even if you can't think of something right now, you can always send us a message after. You now know that we are thinking of, we are actually starting to work on this sprint, I guess, in the design sprint soon. So it would be good to know your feedback. And yes, multiple types of priorities would be good. Awesome for personal projects and the rest of life.
Rest of life, manage your life. I like it. So we're getting towards the end of our 30 minutes, everyone. Could you add non-jobs to a priority board? What do you mean by a non-job there, Chris?
Personal task?
Yeah, like a non-billable job? An internal job? Is that what you mean? If so, you certainly could. It would just be a matter of adding the label to that job as being internal or non-billable. We would manage it as the same as a normal job. Just using that label allows us to separate it from the billable jobs. Certainly. But we are getting towards the end of our 30 minutes this morning, guys. Obviously, those questions are there. If anyone had any last-minute pieces of feedback that they wanted to drop in, some tips on how you're using priorities. If you have forgotten or you want to chat to us about things later, just reach out, get in touch. We'd love to chat.
Anytime.
We're going to be conducting some research into priorities very soon. So
yeah, well, we've started, I guess.
This is it. This is it. This is the research.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, thanks so much for joining this morning. So we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, buddy.
See you next
Bye.
time.